Good afternoon. The biological clock is ticking, and I'm sure hunger is gnawing at our tummies. But we have a lot of food for thought waiting also from very interesting speakers on the panel. So I would like to invite our three panelists for the third session, Dr. K. Ampady, Mr. Dominic, and Ms. Sudha Nambudiri. Please do come on stage. I would be introducing each of the speakers separately because each one is so special, and I want you to register who they are. They are already well known in the scene in Kerala, but to the larger audience. May I introduce Dr. K. Ampady first, because he happens to be the first speaker of this session. Dr. K. Ampady has an IAS, Indian Information Service, and he was the former MD, Managing Director of Information and Public Relations Department, Government of Kerala. And in this capacity, he has developed an innovative campaign strategy to reach specific target groups with the help of new media, especially during times of rare disease outbreaks in Kerala and also national tragedies. He was also director of Subodham, a very innovative project which he put together aimed at preventing alcohol and substance abuse. The main mandate was to chart out a scientifically and culturally acceptable program for addressing the rising menace of alcohol and substance abuse in Kerala. In a short span of time, he had designed a state-of-the-art project, the implementation plan for Kerala, and the same was presented at Subodham Icon in 2016, an international conference organized by Subodham under the leadership of Dr. K. Ampady. And the World Health Expert Group, which he chaired that time, discussed the project report in detail, and the findings and the project itself was, with inputs from the expert group, was submitted to the Kerala government. Now this project has been merged with the project Vimukti, which was presented by Sri Rajiv in the earlier session. Mr. Ampady is one who brings a lot of innovation into the area that he is assigned by the government. Media is a double-edged sword. It can make or break, but he has been a torchbearer to do the making of society with appropriate and innovative interventions. So may I invite Dr. K. Ampady to share with us his experiences.
Good afternoon, Father Kyriakos, Mr. Dominic, Ms. Sudha Nambudiri, respected dignitaries, and my dear friends. So I will be hardly taking 10 minutes of yours before the lunch. So before starting, I would like to share with you a small short film which is directed by me, written and directed by me on this topic. It will be hardly 2 minutes. After that, I will take 8 minutes to conclude. I think that will set the mood for our conversation.
Speech of the day, Maya 5B, and topic of the day, my father, my role model.
My father is my role model. He takes care of me and my mother. He buys me my favorite toys. He helps me in my studies. എൻ്റെ അച്ഛനാണ് എൻ്റെ മാതൃകാ പുരുഷൻ. അച്ഛൻ എന്നെയും എൻ്റെ അമ്മയും വലിയ ഇഷ്ടമാണ്. അച്ഛൻ എനിക്ക് ഒത്തിരി കളിപ്പാട്ടങ്ങൾ വാങ്ങിത്തരും. കഥപുസ്തകങ്ങളും വാങ്ങിത്തരും, എന്നെ പഠിപ്പിക്കും. അച്ഛൻ വീട്ടിൽ വന്ന പിന്നെ ഞങ്ങളുടെ വീടൊരു സ്വർഗമാ. മൈ ഫാദർ ടേക്സ് മീ ടു പാർക്ക്, പ്ലേസ് വിത്ത് മീ. അച്ഛൻ എന്നെ പാർക്കിൽ കൊണ്ടുപോകും, എൻ്റെ കൂടെ കളിക്കും, എനിക്ക് ഐസ്ക്രീമും വാങ്ങിത്തരും. ഞങ്ങൾ ഒരുമിച്ച് സിനിമയ്ക്കും പോവും. എനിക്ക് എൻ്റെ അച്ഛനെ വലിയ ഇഷ്ടം. ഐ ലവ് മൈ ഫാദർ. ദേണ്ട് കിടക്കുന്നടി നിന്റെ അച്ഛൻ. ഇതെന്റെ അച്ഛനല്ല.
When we are discussing the role of media, we have to also understand how the media has evolved over these decades. As we all know, the evolution of media and evolution of the mankind is quite dependent on the technology of the times. So when maybe many years back, many decades back, we were only having the print, the advantage of print, the printing press was the technology, and we were dependent on the print media, especially the newspapers or the magazines for communication. And those were the mediums of mass communication, where we are addressing to a large gathering. So as we all know, in the mechanics, if somebody has to print the newspapers, we know that all the newspapers have their regional bureaus, they have their printing presses in various districts, because the distribution itself is a challenge. Because you have to print your newspaper, somebody has to carry it physically to your house, then only you will be able to read it. So you are printing something, somebody is giving a message, there are a lot of gatekeepers. If I want to do something, I have to approach some person who knows in the newspaper, maybe a journalist, and journalist or a reporter will make a story, and that will be, the gatekeeper will be the editor. The editor will decide whether it has to be published. And somehow if it is published, it has to be taken to the house, and we don't know how many of us will read that. So when we were trying to communicate during those era, we were communicating with an idea that somehow if we get published in a newspaper or a magazine, it will reach the target audience. When the technology changed in the late 1950s, with the advent of television, a visionary like Marshall McLuhan said that medium is the message. And actually we are living in an era when this message, or his message of medium is the message, is more relevant. When it became television, it became very easy. If you have a receiver, you will be able to get the signals at your home. So you are reaching an electronic media, the message will definitely there was no need for a carrier to physically make it reach. It was not gross, it became subtle. So the content was there, but content has to be taken. Now actually we are living in an era where everything is mobile. We are living in an era of convergence. 10 years back, there was a book written by an American author which said that your TV is ringing. So at that time we were thinking that it was an exaggeration. So it has now become a reality that everything has come, not just your TV, everything has come into that mobile platform. The platform is your television, the platform is your phone, the platform is your laptop, the platform is your bank, the platform is your shop, your shopping complex. So everything is there. It is giving you a lot of challenges as well as a lot of opportunities. So when you are taking the idea of a media there, earlier, as I told you, it was very distant kind of thing. You have to approach someone. It was not democratic. There were a lot of gatekeepers. Now, if you take your mobile, that mobile itself is a camera. It itself can record. It itself can transmit. It itself can receive. And through it, you can enjoy. and you can be the anchor, or you can be the journalist, or you can be the communicator. So that is the advantage that technology has given to us. So how best we can use this for communicating any messages that are of importance. So as you are all experts in that, or you have been hearing this discussion against alcohol and substance abuse, we always talk in terms of supply reduction, demand reduction, harm reduction. So supply reduction generally has to do with a lot of policy, enforcement. So it has to do with government. So what is the role of the media? So media has always been an effective tool for advocacy, for mounting pressure, for setting agendas for the government. So technically, all the mass media, whether it is newspaper or a television, that can be always used for creating pressure on the government. But now, as I said, as we all know, we have all the opportunity to be a media by ourselves. You can have your YouTube channel, and that YouTube channel can earn subscribers. You can directly communicate. The social media, it is a medium of interactivity. So what has happened from the earlier years to the present year is that, technically speaking, what has happened is audience fragmentation. Earlier, when I am addressing, as we say in Malayalam, Manya Mahajanangale, ladies and gentlemen, you are addressing thousands or lakhs of people either to a television or in a very big crowd of meeting. Now that is not required. The audience has become fragmented, and that fragmented audience can be now directly targeted by each one of you. If you want to build pressure on government, you can start a hashtag campaign. You can make your profile pictures of a specific campaign. And mind you, all policies are taken by politicians, and politicians are afraid of nothing but numbers. So if you can show that you have numbers, definitely policies will change. Advocacy can be done. So then here, actually the new media or the social media is an effective tool to bring enormous amount of pressure on policymakers, and it will have tremendous impact. And while coming to demand reduction also, of course, we have seen campaigns like Kudiyalladu Jeevitham by a news channel called Asianet. So media groups can be encouraged to do campaigns. They can bring out positive stories. They can bring out stories that can enlighten us on the various aspects of this. So that is there, that can come in newspapers, that can come in all these kind of traditional media. Here actually, I would like to bring that when we are actually trying to address demand reduction, we are actually trying to communicate to our youth, communicate to our target audience. So it has to be a quantitative as well as a qualitative solution. I will give an example. This I have read in one of the journals. In Australia, melanoma was, or melanoma probably is, a challenge for those who are in the age group of 15 to 30. So the youth in that age group were having increased incidence of melanoma. So the government want to have a campaign to specifically address this group, to periodically undergo checkup, to ensure that they don't have or they have not got this disease. So they have not got for any typical kind of campaign. What they have done is that they have developed an app called Miss Melanoma. So this Miss Melanoma, what it will do is that for any youth within the age group of 15 to 30, if he or she goes to a place where there is enormous amount of sunlight, whether it can be a beach or some other place, and if they do a selfie and post in a social media, this app, this Miss Melanoma will automatically go and love that photo, which says that I love you, I love to come to you. That means it is what, and it is being said by a cancer. So what has been told is that this campaign or this innovative measure had actually 3 times of impact. What they were expecting was this many amount of numbers of checkups will take place. So 3 times of that happened with this thing. It's a small innovation. You have not spent much money, you have developed a small app. So what I am saying is that it is possible to target specific kind of people for specific thing in this era of, so this is actually opening up a very good quantitative option for addressing demand reduction. So the film which I have shown you is actually a qualitative thing which you have to think. Even WHO studies have shown that fear is not at all a factor that will work in favor of demand reduction. So we have to devise messages in such a way that the ego barrier of the recipient is not coming as a barrier in preventing that message from going down. Somehow, here actually what we were trying is that we were trying to somehow address that feeling of a parental feeling, whether actually when somebody is going to take alcohol or somebody is going to take drug abuse, whether they can think in lines of as a responsible parent, whether I am a responsible parent, whether I am actually catering to the need of a child. This is one kind of messaging to a particular kind of thing, but we can devise lot of things in which actually we are not directly saying things, but we are able to subtly communicate, subliminally communicate to our target audience. I think that will be more effective than directly communicating such messages. So, in this era of new media in which we can communicate directly with anyone, communication has become more of science than arts. Earlier we used to say that people who can write well, who are good copywriters, who are good artists, are good communicators. That thing is over now. We are living in an era where actually data has become very important. It has become a data-driven society. Data are giving us innovative ideas and insights, and that will give us innovative ideas to implement schemes, and it will also help us to study the impact of that. So I think we should also use data as an important tool in devising messages through media, to appropriate media to generate appropriate content so that we will get the desired result in a more effective way. Thank you so much.
I thank Dr. Ampady for being right on the dot with the time. I'm sure a lot of comments or questions would be arising in your minds. Please save them and note them down. We will have the questions answered at the end of the 3 presentations. The next person we have is Mr. Dominic, former Chief Executive Officer, CGH Group of S.A.F.E, Group of Hotels, India. You know, the media always wants to have the last word. Whether you give it to them or not, they would take it. And that's another reason why Ms. Sudha wants to have the last word. So we have Mr. Dominic coming on the podium and sharing with us his experiences and the initiatives that he has taken in the hospitality industry and the tourism domain to promote healthy values and practices which prevent the wide spreading of substance abuse. Mr. Jose is the former CEO of Kerala-based CGH S.A.F.E Group of Hotels, one of the pioneers of responsible and sustainable tourism in India. He also engages in panels of responsible tourism and is one of the founder members of Eco-Tourism Society of India. Looking into the future of tourism, he is convinced that tourism is about how much we can preserve our ecology, heritage, culture, and community. His vision of a responsible tourism model for the state of Kerala has also been instrumental in bringing awareness about clean, green, health dimension into tourism. A fervent advocate for drug-free Kerala, Sri Dominic lends active support to the life-building initiatives by Project Vanda, and he is also on the advisory board of Project Vanda. I know from my earlier experience with Mr. Dominic that he has worked a lot to bring a healthy scene into the hotel and hospitality industry to prevent child abuse by bringing healthy protocols and minimum standards into the hospitality industry. He has also been instrumental in adopting the neighborhood in which his hotel facilities are located so that the local youth are prevented from engaging in negative attitudes and unhealthy lifestyle by promoting their employment in those facilities. Over to Mr. Jose, and I wish you a very informative hearing.
Thank you, Father Kyriakos. Boys, girls, ladies, gentlemen, today is World Tourism Day. I think appropriate time for this discussion. And I'm thankful for Venda to have invited representatives of the tourism industry to talk about how tourism can make Kerala safe. And tourism, I would say, is as represented in this discussion as an industry of how Kerala's growth and development in tourism has played a role in this big subject of substance abuse-free environment. In the earlier discussion, I was alarmed, and I think alarming sound made by Diana when she said Kerala is next to Punjab. If you go back to your TV screens and the media earlier, and you would see that the Punjab election was fought on this battle, on making Punjab drug-free. That subject does not seem to be in our vocabulary. The concern, I think, that we need a body like this, and the concern of Kerala is that when you hear figures like 10% school going and 25% college going are victims of substance, that is an alarming figure indeed. Now let me get back to my subject, how tourism can be an instrument of making Kerala safe. And I think that will come from the story of Kerala development. Post-independence, Kerala went through a tumultuous phase, much before all the boys and girls were born. And we had the first democratically elected communist government in the world, with the EMS Namudripal's government came in. And we had industrial trade unionism strife, which really what it did was scared industry away. And therefore, in a way, what it did was it kept the smokestack away. And therefore, in a way, we could now say that kept Kerala's environment safe. But it had other consequences. The mother would tell her children, boy, girl, study well so that you can go away. And they did study well, and they did go away in vast, unprecedented numbers. The Malayali or the Kerala youth, boys and girls in other Indian cities, across the world, and in the Gulf countries, in such an unprecedented number, they are there. And all that has played a big role in how social development in Kerala is taking place. Kerala is, of course, in a couple of years ago, in an event called Emerging Kerala, a summit it was called, the then Chief Minister who delivered his keynote address talked about the two most important change-making events of Kerala. One, he said, was the phenomenon of the NRK. NRK, as you would then, all of you would know, translate to non-resident Keralite. Of course, in last year, it resulted in remittance of 1.5 lakh crores every year into the state. But that NRK is a phenomenon which is unique to Kerala. People going abroad, going to Gulf, especially the Gulf. Almost 3 million people from Kerala in the Gulf. And their remittances is building the Kerala economy. And helping to build the Kerala economy. And that remittance is even influencing consumption. I'm not just coming to the subject at the moment here. The other the change event of Kerala, according to the then Chief Minister, who delivered the keynote address, was the phenomenon of tourism in Kerala. Kerala was a late starter in tourism. In our beginning, left governments thought tourism to be an embarrassment. It was luxury, capitalist, bourgeois, and there was nothing to be encouraged. But as tourism is really, as we see today, is a post-war phenomenon of the world getting into the jet aircraft. Travel became more economic, more affordable. And Kerala's too yearned to get a share in that pie. Indian tourism began with Delhi, Agra, Jaipur. We called the Golden Triangle. And we were, as far as Kerala was concerned, in the backwaters. Slowly, in a way, because investors were afraid, small entrepreneurs did what they could, which is small, in a manner which they knew, which is local. It is the credit of the genius of the small entrepreneurs of Kerala, the small and indigenous became world class. Winning recognition for Kerala by the award of what is called the UNDP award, of the Ulysses Award for responsible tourism. Now Kerala is seen as in leadership in responsible tourism. So tourism today has now, from being that, from a late starter, tourism today plays a big role. It creates, it contributes to 11% of Kerala's economy. In today's newspaper, you will have seen a report by the tourism minister which says our aspiration with Kerala is that tourism should contribute 15% of our GDP. That role of tourism now plays a part in the subject that we have today, how it can make Kerala safe from substance abuse. I'll just narrate a small story in our own example. And in a village called Mararikulam, not very far from Cochin, in 1995, the company which I was associated with, and I'm still associated, we decided to set up a small resort on that village. And that village of between Cherthala and Kochi is considered to be among the most impoverished parts of Kerala. People's employment was coconut and fishing, both of which were degraded. Being not far from Cochin, there were day jobs to be had in Cochin. So many people would come to Cochin, get work in construction sites, and earn maybe between 500 to 1,000 rupees a day, but never known whether that job will be there next day. So what you did was, took the money and spent it. And therefore, alcoholism and substance abuse became a factor in that local economy. Now what did tourism, I'm just giving a citing example to it. This one little resort there, what it did was, it became very successful. It had a model which was more from our end, which was clean, green, healthy, based on environment protection, local employment. About 15 or 20 local boys and girls got worked in that establishment. Very soon, seeing the success of that establishment, many more resorts came in that village. So from one hotel, one resort, there were very soon, in the next couple of years, about a dozen more came. From 30 rooms, there were about 400 rooms in that village area, in that village panchayat. So from 15 or 20 people, 300 to 400 people from that village became employees in the hotel. Now what did that do? It suddenly changed the story. That it was no longer necessary, that there was hope, there was jobs, that one could work. And the moment one boy or girl worked in a hotel, in a job, then the family became intensely concerned about their own behavior, that their social standing, their esteem, all rose. So it had a huge role in changing the behavior of the village itself, that small employment to the boys and girls who were there. So much so, a question was asked, two institutions in our community raised this question, and I was present in those two times. One was, a very strong factor in that community was the Catholic Church. There are many schools, there are many institutions there. They began recognizing this phenomenon and then tried to find out what was happening. Why they suddenly, despite all the best efforts, suddenly there was some new energy was beginning to come. People are talking about and acting for preventing abuse, to make their location, their villages safe. And then realized that it was this phenomenon that the champions, we heard that word before, the champions were people who had jobs here. Said, look, I've got this work, don't spoil my chances of my growth, my employment by behaving irresponsibly. So the families spread to the villages. So from 15 to 20, it began with 300-400 people. So the entire community suddenly became charged with the subject. The other institution which took up the subject was, well, both are on the same boat, though on opposite sides, was the Communist Party. They too asked the same question, and they had the party cell. And so they invited me for a discussion in the party cell, of course, about they have their own issues relating to their own conflict. The agenda was haves was have-nots. But today they were asking another question. The question they said is, what is happening? Do you recognize this? And they too said that, yes, the youth who have got jobs are making a big change in our community. No longer is it necessary for them to join the union, to go to Cochin, get to the work site, earn 800 to 1,000 rupees and spend it abusively. Instead, they got hope, they got a career, they got something to look forward to. Looking at jobs, looked at families, becoming family men, getting married, having children, having a future. And that made such a big change to that community. And that's how the role of tourism can do. Sorry. Yeah. So the tourism can do to Kerala as a whole. Whether it's tourism or other industry, it has a role to be a preventer of abuse. And I believe that today on World Tourism Day, Kerala has taken leadership in responsible tourism, where I just conclude one statement that the consumer, who is the tourist, the guest, or the stakeholder, will find luxury when the consumer's interest is subjugated to the interest of community and subjugated to the interest of environment. That will create the kind of safe, God's own Kerala that we want Kerala to be. With this, my time is up, and I thank you, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, for your listening.
Thank you, Mr. Jose Dominic, for that wonderful presentation of how acting locally with the tourism industry can change the lives of people in a large area where these facilities are located, and it can become a model to make Kerala or any region in the world tourism friendly and at the same time drug free. Media sometimes is sweet and sometimes it is sour. Sweet because it is so useful for us, and sometimes it can also disrupt our lives. Looking at from the side of the media has to strike a very delicate balance between values and revenue, especially a large media like the print media in a state like Kerala. If you take a typical picture of Kerala, it is the ordinary citizen sitting in the tea shop reading the newspaper that is so vivid in our minds. So print media is so powerful in Kerala, and it still has to struggle with values and revenue. But we have in Miss Sudha Nambudiri a person who is proactive, who has created a lot of initiatives in the media to advocate for promotion of values and healthy living, especially for younger people, women and children. Ms. Sudha is an experienced journalist with a strong media and communication professional history, working in the newspaper industry. She specializes now in the Times Group with the editorship of science and technology sector. And she also works in the health, environment and social issues concerning women and children. She is skilled in research reporting and news writing, copy editing, and online journalism. She has received the Manna, the Green Letter Award in 2018 for reporting very creatively on environment, science, and agriculture and soil-related issues in the post-flood scenario in Kerala. When the farmers didn't know how to deal with all the mud that had accumulated in their fields, she had written a series of articles to bring hope in their lives. Over to Ms. Sudha Nambudiri to enlighten us on how media can be used for social transformation.
It's a pleasure to be around here. I was sitting on the other side of the forum day before yesterday. I sat through and listened to quite a few speeches, very interesting speeches on the international scenario. I work for the Times of India, which is the largest circulated daily, not just in the country, as far as the numbers go, in the world. So the group actually rivals with its own publications for the top spots. We have the Times of India, the Economic Times, the Mirror, and we do have a very strong online and Times Now, which is the news channel. That's my introduction of my media group, but I hope to represent the working journalist group, which actually reports and writes about issues related to the happenings in the society. My area, you might be wondering why a science editor is sitting and talking at a forum like this. One is I'm standing in for my editor. I just put an apology for him. There are a lot of happenings, so he asked me to stand in. And second thing is I write on children and youth. I take up social issues related to, and I actually like to monitor the happenings in the society. With this, I'll just start with the span of 30 years, I've seen the growth of journalism from a rookie reporter who had no access to telephones, and we had only this landline connection, and after 5:30, all the government officers everybody would go home, and we didn't have access to getting information as easily. We had to be on the spot. We had to run around trying to find officials' homes so that we get some information after 5:30, after the office hours are over, if there's any late night development. Okay, today that scenario is completely changed. Everybody is accessible, information is accessible, there is an overflow of information, and we really don't know how to deal with it. And along with this, there is a lot of fake news happening, constructed news. There is an organized media, there is an unorganized media, there is, like Dr. Ampady just mentioned some time back, the media which is right there in your hand. So in that backdrop, working as a socially responsible journalist is a very tough role. And often when I get invited to interact with people and it's media and something, and I end up facing a lot of flack because of the flaws in the organized media. We have our own challenges, we have our own professional issues, but I'll just start with a story of how we monitor the changes in the society. Now, crime and drug abuse are often reported together. It's always linked. And so when we are reporting crime, what we end up, and we also know that there's a substance abuse or there's a drug peddler or some such connection to it, often the importance goes to the crime, and somewhere along that filing of the story or the storytelling, we bring in this element saying that he must have done it in the backdrop of the substance abuse. So like I heard the other day, when very interesting point from the speakers in one of the panels, where they were saying about how, the crime or the act is actually, the drug abuse is actually camouflaged by the crime. That is, because he was into drugs or he was in the influence of alcohol, he'd committed the crime. So that reality, actually, it was very interesting, new information for me. But I would like to, tell about a story. This happened about a decade ago. Kerala was like, discussing about a toddy ban. So there was some incident of some illicit liquor tragedy or something like that. I can't really place the incident, but so the district had a ban on toddy shops in several places. So I was working for another paper then, and I was the chief reporter there, and journalists also drink, so all the reporters were very keenly discussing about the impact of this ban and how is it. So I said, why don't you guys go and check out whether it's happening? Always we do that. When the government comes up with some kind of a policy, we always go to counter check it whether it's really happening. So on that aspect, we sent out reporters across. And morning, very enthusiastically, all the boys went out and they came back in the evening and said, ma'am, no such incident. We are not getting toddy anyway. So they went very enthusiastically to buy toddy, and they didn't get it. I said, okay, so it's 1 week only into this whole thing, so maybe let's check it out next week. 2 days later, one of my senior colleagues had gone to a school, to his son's school. So he was sitting because his son had got into some fight with some colleague and with another boy, and and then the principal says, what do I do? Look at this generation. Now you see, and she picks up a bottle of toddy. And this is what she had found in the school bag of a 12th class student when they were checking bags. They were checking bags for some other, whether there was money or any such. The random checks keep happening to check out whether any, like these kind of things, and they got a bottle of toddy. Now, she said, please don't report it. We didn't report it. It was not this thing. But that is when we first noted that this abuse is taking a different turn. Till then, we had been looking at only criminal or people with any kind of a criminal background, or maybe the socially lesser sections of the society which was, accessing it or committing some crimes related and all that. We had this very, that's how it is kind of thing. Reporting was always like that. But then that perspective changed. This child was just like one of our children. From the middle class family, upper middle class family, but how did he get access to this toddy? Then that is when the police, we didn't actually, I told my crime reporter, why don't you just alert the police that something like this happened? Don't mention the school, just mention that something like this has been seen. Now, the reporter called up the commissioner during one of those meetings that they generally drop in, and this came in as a discussion. And the commissioner then told us that they have been getting reports of, different kinds of addiction and cigarettes, and that is like, I'm talking about a decade back now. Cigarettes, fags are not a new thing, but then they had already started. This happened almost a decade ago. Then later on, I moved into the Times of India, and I used to again write all these issues. I used to have access to, reach out to so many parents coming. And one day, one parent from one of the Kochi islands, he calls me in a very panic situation. He said, ma'am, I have to talk to you. I said, okay, fine. So he actually calls me for several other issues. He's one of the church, he works for a church, and he said, I'm in a real soup. I asked, what happened? He said, my son has, I was checking his bag for a pen, and I found a cigarette in his thing, but that looked like a chocolate. So initially I thought it was a chocolate. Later on I realized that it is not a chocolate, it is a cigarette. But it is camouflage like that. My son doesn't smoke, my son doesn't have this kind of, I don't know, but he has been behaving very strangely. I said, then you should start taking note of it. But ma'am, now what to do? I said, okay, let's see what we can do. He said, can you call the police? I said, are you sure you want to call the police in? He said, ma'am, I want to call the police in because it's not just my child. My child says he hasn't consumed it. I don't know, but the fact is that somebody has reached it out to him. So the network is very big. And then we called the cops, and we did not say as usual, we hid all the rest of the thing. We said that something like this is happening in schools in that area. We just opened it out, let the cops find it. Because tracing out we don't know where all it would reach to. And during that raid that happened that week, they managed to seize quite a few of those kind of cigarettes which had. And that is when the system of, keeping the cops on our side also we developed those kind of links. So we have actually across media, we actually have a very good working relationship with much of these agencies because it helps both ways. Of course, there are a lot of other side of things there. Sometimes the officials are not happy with the way we've reported it. But I think we should actually look into system like how we have the child line. Now, over the years, Kerala has developed a very strong child line network which alerts on child abuse. I think we should actually look into developing that kind of networks which work very informally, wherein if a child comes to know that somebody else is having this, among them they will not complain. Peer groups, they have a lot of peer pressure, and then friends matter more than family for the adolescents. We have to understand that. But somewhere we have to, there are kids who actually would like to report. They don't know how to report. Now that parent calls me, he should not be calling me. He should have had a separate system in place where he could have reached safely without fear of being, pointed out that, oh, your son is having, this thing. So he didn't want that. So that is why he used a safe route out. But there has to be another system in place. While on that, I would also like to talk about another issue is that as a media, we kind of have been noting and we have been writing. I personally also write on how parties and how the youngsters, more and more youngsters are, how more and more youngsters are coming into using this abuse, and they don't understand. The number of carriers are increasing. Students who are studying outside, I am told, we've been told that are also playing the role of this thing, and the format of now it's not ampules, it's now tablets, it's easily prescribed medicines, accessible. This is a huge problem. I don't think we can overnight come out with this thing, but we will need to put in some parallel systems in place. And I would like to assure you that as a media, responsible media, we will be there to help the society overcome this issue. I use my forum as also, I go to universities and teach media ethics to journalism students, and this is one of my favorite topics. Right. Thank you so much.